Hi, time for a few rants from the shed. This is a new series of rants from the shed. I'm going to see if it works out. I'm going to rant while I'm copying this plug. This is a Rapala plug made of balsa wood, and they're quite expensive, and you lose them occasionally. So I've got some balsa wood here, and I'm going to try and make something similar to this. And while I do that, I'm going to be ranting. Okay, so what am I going to rant about? Well, something that's really been getting on my nerves a lot over the last sort of quite a few years, really. But it's come to the boil again. I'm talking about the death of Princess Diana, which was very sad, and the conspiracy theory subsequent to it, which was worse than sad. Now, a lot of us thought this had died down, but now the Daily Express, a piece of drivel masquerading as a newspaper in my benighted country, has elected to get it all going again on the basis of a little bit of hearsay. Now, I'll go over the details of this. I could make this half an hour long easily, but there's no real benefit in doing that. So what happened was Princess Diana, or I can't remember if she was still being called a princess then, or if the title had been taken away from her. But anyway, she was having it off with this toy boy, this Egyptian descended toy boy, Dodi Al-Fayed, son of the very dodgy businessman Mohammed Al-Fayed. Now, a lot has been said about these two characters, and I don't really want to go into too much of it, but basically they were having it off, right, and the whole world knew this and wanted to get pictures of whatever they could of them doing whatever they were doing. Anyway, I probably shouldn't be cutting towards myself, but I'm going to anyway. They had been staying in the south of France, on Dodi's yacht. They were being photographed by the press. So they're staying, in absolute plain view and being photographed every day. And they decided to seek a bit of privacy to go to the Ritz, one of the most famous hotels in the world, in the middle of Paris. Just the sort of place you go for a bit of privacy. Anyway, the media, the press pack, were chasing them. And instead of standing and giving a photo opportunity and then telling them to clear off, they decided to flee to wherever they were going to spend the night together. Now, there was an attempt to deceive the press. They got into a car that was driven by a chauffeur, unrepayable, who unequivocal evidence later showed had been drinking alcohol that night. The car drove at very high speed with the press pack chasing. The car ran into an immovable object and collapsed in the way that cars do when driven at very high speeds into immovable objects. And there were 4 people in the car. 3 of them were not wearing seat belts. The other one was the only one who survived. So, as a wise person said about this whole story, the only really thing we could really learn from it is don't get into a car that's been driven by somebody who is intoxicated, and wear your seatbelt. It was very sad. I remember where I was when I heard the news, and I was very sad. I'm a bit of a royalist. Julie and I went to London for the actual wedding of Charles and Diana. We were as sorry as anybody when it all went sour later. I've worked in A&E, and I've seen dead bodies from road traffic accidents, and I had a very narrow escape from death myself. Saved by a seatbelt when a car I was in rolled over at high speed on the motorway. But that's another story. Got out of it with just that little scratch there. I don't think you can see it anymore. Anyway, so got out of the injury, got out of it without an injury. But anyway, so a conspiracy theory blew up. And it's going to take a bit more work, isn't it, to get that right. A conspiracy theory blew up that the British establishment, Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, arranged the accident to happen in order to assassinate Diana because she was an embarrassment to the royal family. Now, I'm not going to go into just exactly how stupid that whole thing is. It's just unbelievably stupid, and it's really very offensive. I could talk a long time about it, I'm not going to. Just to say that the Daily Express particularly led a campaign pushing this for year after year. They had front page after front page covering the story. Always got to be a public inquiry. Anyway, eventually there was a major public inquiry, which everybody who had any evidence put it forward. My memories of this were that the close female companions of Princess Diana, who had been with her shortly before her untimely and very sad death, were forced to testify. One of them testified that she was definitely not pregnant because she was taking the birth control pill, and under duress actually came out and said, well, actually she was menstruating a few days before the accident. Now, Mohammed Al-Fayed had insisted that Diana was pregnant with his grandchild, and that's why the British establishment had her assassinated. Now, the French doctor who did the post-mortem heard him being interviewed, and he said, I can assure you she was certainly not pregnant. They pressed him, how do you know? And he said, look, I'm a doctor, I did the post-mortem, I can tell you she was not pregnant. They tried to basically get him to say, well, because I cut her uterus open at the post-mortem, but that's what would have happened. I mean, this is the degree of infamy and of indignity. People who claim to have loved this woman, people who claim to have loved Diana and her memory, subjected her memory to this degree of indignity, detail, gynecological details. Anyway, one thought that the whole wretched affair would have finished, but no, the Express has revived it on the basis of one piece of hearsay evidence, which has come from a woman who was estranged from her husband, who was a soldier, and who said to her allegedly, "Oh, the SAS done it. It was the SAS." The British Special Air Service, elite commando fighters, for whom I have a lot of respect. I've known 3 men who were in the SAS, and I have a great deal of respect for their courage, their professionalism. The idea, point number one, the whole conspiracy theory has been completely shredded in every possible way. But to bring it back and say, oh, it was the SAS that done it, adds a new level of insult. The Special Air Service are very brave people. Many of them have died serving their country. They're professional killers, yeah, but they do not kill defenceless women. And the insult of this. Anyway, the Daily Express has actually run a story about Diana, making this allegation, that allegation, all completely baseless. Most of these stories consist of a photograph of Diana on the front page. The woman was certainly very photogenic. A half a paragraph of innuendo, and then not very much on the inside pages. I'm just saying this, that if you buy the Daily Express, please don't. It really is appalling, as Prince Charles used to say. And none of this, by the way, should be taken as approving of the behaviour of the royal family towards Diana, and certainly, above all, not approving the behaviour of Prince Charles towards her. He committed adultery, broke his marriage vows. I deprecate that. It's all very, very sad. All of it's a very, very sad and sorry story. But to actually revive this conspiracy theory that the British establishment deliberately had Diana assassinated, presumably by hypnotising the driver and making him drive into a brick wall. You do the math. If there was any Diana conspiracy theorists here, then post whatever drivel you like, but I don't expect you to answer it. But apart from the harm to Diana's memory, and let's not forget she has 2 sons who have had to endure all of this without really being able to reply to it. And now the insult to British soldiers who do not deserve to be insulted in this way. Apart from anything else, where do you hide a real conspiracy? You hide it. Where do you hide a pebble? You hide a pebble on a beach. If you've got some real conspiracies, like conspiracy to destroy national treasure, conspiracy to give away national sovereignty, conspiracy to sell this country to the international socialist conspiracy that is the European Union, then in order to stop people talking about it, get them going about some pathetic piddling little thing. Get them, how do you hide real conspiracies? By inventing some fake conspiracies. So, while a proportion of the British people is luxuriating in this revived myth of how Diana was assassinated on the orders of the royal family by causing a car crash. The causes of that car crash have been pretty well explored. Dodi Al-Fayed was the backseat driver. He was showing off. None of them had their seatbelts on. I love Princess Diana. I'm really sorry about what happened to her, but she made a lot of mistakes. The Lord knows I've made many mistakes, and I thank God for His forgiveness, all the mistakes I've made. But the last two mistakes that Diana made one was getting into a car that was being driven by an idiot, and I'm referring to Dodi Al-Fayed, not the driver who was only obeying orders, and failing to fasten her seatbelt. If she'd fastened her seatbelt, she'd probably be alive today. And that's probably the number one lesson. But hey, anyway, that's probably all I've got to say. And yeah, this is going to take a bit more work, probably. But I'll show you what this looks like when I've eventually got there. Okay.